Good morning. Thank you for joining us live here on India Today. I'm Akshita Nandagopal. I usually get you, of course, a roundup of all the top stories every morning and tell you about the top headlines that we're tracking closely here on India Today. Inevitably, it's bad news. So I decided today to start off with some good news also to kick off your day. It's a very rainy day here in Delhi. I'm cooped up in the studio. I hope you're enjoying your day outside. But the good news that I want to put out for you is on our vaccination drive. In the last 24 hours, we've put out another record really as far as our vaccinations are concerned. Over 1.3 crore vaccine jabs have been administered in the last 24 hours. This is the way we really need to keep going to ensure that we reach the December deadline that the government set of saying all adults will be vaccinated by the end of this year. So with in fact 1.3 crore jabs being given and administered in the last 24 hours, we've been seeing that for the last 2-3 days, this has essentially been the trend, that we've been seeing a lot of doses being administered, something that the government has also highlighted. I just want to put out some data for you of what that means. 68% of adults in India have now received at least one dose of the vaccine. People who were affected in the second wave have managed to get one dose, and the months to come they'll get their second dose, which means that they too will be fully vaccinated. That percentage will shoot up then. In all, over 50 crore Indians have at least received one dose of the vaccine, and that's great news because several experts have pointed out that the way to beat this pandemic, the way to beat this virus is by being cautious, of course, ensuring you maintain all protocol, at the same time to ensure very successful vaccination drive. We've got our task cut out because of the huge population that we have here in India, which is why the government has been focusing on ramping up vaccine supply to states and union territories. With that now being done, you're seeing the numbers going up, and we're keeping our fingers crossed that this trend continues in the coming weeks. And if this continues of 1 crore plus jabs being given, rest assured the government's deadline of ensuring all adults are vaccinated by the end of this year will actually be met. And it's a huge deal because then slowly we could perhaps see some sense of normalcy by next year. Having said that, and while talking about the vaccination drive, there have been a lot of questions that we've been addressing here on India Today as well about when we'll have a vaccine for children. Trials are on that front, but now from today what you're seeing is schools reopening across the country in several states, several union territories. From today, September 1st, you're seeing schools also opening up. Let me just highlight for you how in Delhi, Uttar Pradesh, Tamil Nadu, you've got Rajasthan, Puducherry, Madhya Pradesh, all of them are opening up schools. Of course, it's going to be in a staggered way. So in most of these states, what you'll see is classes 9 to 12, students of these classes returning back to schools today. And then slowly in a week from now, you'll see more students returning, more classes resuming as well. And it's being done in this manner because that's what experts have advised. If you're a parent who's very concerned, not sure if you should send your kid to school, there is some data that we've accessed about whether infection rate has increased among kids. Because remember, before this, some states, you've got states like Punjab, Bihar, Haryana, they'd already opened up schools again in a staggered way. So what really is the data that's come forth there? Most states haven't really seen a rise in infections among kids. Some states like Punjab and Bihar have seen a marginal rise in infections among children, but it's been mild infections. So what experts have said is that children have better immunity, they have a better chance of warding off diseases like COVID, they have better chance of ensuring they don't get infected. But the other side, the other narrative is that kids haven't been vaccinated, and even vaccinated adults, teaching, non-teaching staff who are in these campuses, they can still be virus carriers. So that's where there's a bit of concern. But look, we have to return to normalcy sometime, and that's happening now with schools reopening. We are getting you the latest ground reports here on India Today about what the situation is on the ground. Let me also take a look at some other stories that we're tracking this morning. What's happening in Afghanistan? US President Joe Biden, remember yesterday I told you about how all the US troops had withdrawn from Afghanistan. The Taliban celebrated at the Kabul airport. US President Joe Biden, who's been facing so much criticism over how he's really handled the troop withdrawal, how he's handled the Afghanistan crisis, he's come out and defended his decision, saying it was the best decision, it was the right decision, it was done to protect national interests. So that's what he said. But also at the same time, here on India Today, we're getting you details of a conversation that happened between Joe Biden and Ashraf Ghani, the ousted Afghan president, where they discussed in great detail what's happening in Afghanistan. This was a phone call that happened back in July 23rd when the Taliban was making inroads across Afghanistan, inching closer and closer to Kabul. You'd think that was what was discussed. Instead, the transcript shows that there was clearly a lack of concern, or for that matter, they didn't seem to be in touch with the ground reality that the Taliban was inching closer. The focus rather was on political strategy. The focus rather was on optics to ensure that the troop withdrawal, as Biden put it, the messaging tactics over it are sent across the right way. So optics was what both world leaders were concerned about, which is why perhaps you're seeing the mess right now that's playing out in Afghanistan. So that's something we're also getting you details on, because the Taliban right now is focusing on setting up their government. Abdul Baradar, who's been deemed as the boss of Taliban, who's perhaps going to be the head of the government, is going to Kabul. And you're also going to be seeing a lot of questions about how Taliban is going to be dealing with some of the bigger issues like the economy, the food crisis. Those are things that the Taliban government, so-called government, will have to address on a war footing to ensure people in the country don't suffer either. So we'll continue getting you the latest on the COVID crisis. We're also going to get you the latest numbers as and when it's out from the health ministry. Let's hope that the case count comes down. Schools are reopening. We'll be getting you the ground reports on that as well. For the moment, it's a wrap on this broadcast. Thank you very much for tuning in and have a great day.